let's go ahead and get started. So thank you guys for joining us for our very first Diversifying Your Dairy Herd webinar. So what this is just a focus on using the value of beef within your dairy herd, capturing that, and then we will talk about marketing that to retailers and using that to your advantage. So just to quickly introduce ourselves, and then I will give Jim a more proper introduction in just a minute. So my name is Chloe Collins. I am the dairy specialist at the University of Missouri Extension. I cover the Southwest region, and I have 8 direct counties that I cover, and then service across the state as needed. So just a couple housekeeping things. On Zoom, you'll see a bar at the bottom of your screen. If you have a question while I'm talking and doing the introductions, you can just hit the box that says chat. So it will look down at the bottom, it will have a little message bubble, it will say chat. Click on that and you can type in your questions in the question box, submit them, and then I can read through them as they come in. If you have any more questions after the webinar is over, feel free to contact myself, contact Jim, and we will do our best to help you with those. So we will just jump right in. So within diversifying your dairy, we can kind of see different trends in the industry. What this graph is actually showing is the cattle inventory for the United States as of January 1st of 2024. So you'll see we are quickly declining our herd, especially if we look from 2019, or it's a sharp decrease. So what that is doing essentially is our supply is low. That means our demand is going to be on the up and up. And if we don't have enough cows in our herd to increase that demand through calves, we're missing out on some potential money in our pocket there. So what dairy can do with that is consider adding beef into their herd. So we all know beef is in high demand, higher than ever. We're slaughtering more cows than ever. We're slaughtering more calves than ever. You can see that trending upward, especially after that spike after COVID happened. So if we think about our cow herd going down, our slaughter rates going up, somewhere in there, we're going to have to eventually make up that difference. So the traditional way of thinking is sometimes beef producers and dairy producers kind of butt heads in a sense. One is very in favor of beef, one is very in favor of dairy, and that's fine. That's all great, but it doesn't have to be beef versus dairy. There's a lot of potential there to cross between the two and pick up some of those beef profits. So if we check out this graph, you can see dairy is going to be that light gray little tiny wedge of the pie, bringing in about 4% of the total cash receipts in Missouri. Then when we look at our cattle and calves, those are more focusing on beef and stockers. They're bringing in 37% of those cash receipts. So our dairy folks have a huge opportunity to take some of that profit for themselves, diversify their operation, and make a little bit more money. So that's what we're going to focus on today is how to raise those beef dairy cross calves. And then what do you do with them once you have them? So this isn't super new in the industry. It's just becoming more popular over time. So what this is, from my perspective, what I have seen being done in Missouri around locally to us, is people are taking that bottom 1/3 of their dairy herd. So maybe not their super high milk producing cows, some that maybe they were considering culling, but just not their super rock stars of the herd. They're taking that 1/3 of the bottom group and breeding them back to beef semen. So when you're doing that, usually most of our stockers we think of as steers. So you can use sex semen, so a male preference sex semen, to breed to your bottom 1/3 of dairy cows to create those beef dairy crosses. They are more advantageous over just straight dairy calves from a beef perspective. So once you add in those beef genetics, you're going to have more gain ratio, better marbling, all the things that our packers or our consumers think of as a priority when they're buying beef. And then like we just saw in our graphs, that demand for beef is going up. We don't see it coming down anytime soon. So why not take advantage while we can? And so far in the studies, Missouri just did a big one. The results haven't been released to the public yet, but we are seeing that some of those dairy beef cattle crosses are capable of reaching that higher choice grade, and some make it even into that prime category. So there is a potential for those calves to really do well and really be competitive to our straight beef stockers and feeders. All right, so that was just kind of a quick little overview of what I wanted to bring to the conversation today. And then I will introduce Jim to tell us what we should do once we have those calves. So Jim was introduced to me by our friend Val, and he actually is a beef marketing specialist, consultant, all of the above. You name it, he does it in the grass-fed industry. So he has about 19 years of experience, maybe more at this point, in the grass-fed beef industry. He focuses on teaching other farmers and ranchers how to be successful at doing that, and also how to retail that to get the most value out of their beef. So we also can talk about alternative income sources, but today we're going to focus on retailing and grass-fed beef and those beef dairy crosses. So I will hand it over to Jim. So far, we don't have any questions in our chat box yet, but you, sir, can take the conversation wherever you would like.
All right, thanks, Chloe. Yeah, my name is Jim Kraus, and again, to start here, if any of you do have any questions, please just ask right away. It's easier for me if you have questions as we go, and we can get some of your questions out of the road and make sure we get them answered. But this was an interesting topic, the crossbred calves. I did that years and years and years ago, and wasn't really sure what I was getting into. But actually, I found out years ago that the crossbred calves were readily available way back when. They were very cheap to buy. I mean, I was probably paying $50 to $75 a calf back when I was doing crossbreds. And what I was finding is they were gaining well on grass, and the meat was exceptional. And I think over time, it's even gotten customers have really gotten into them and determined that it has one of the best tasting beef about a lot of cows out there right now. So getting into the retail market, if you're in the dairy industry right now and you want to tap your toe into the retail market, it's a great way to get in, is retaining some of your calves and getting into the retail market. There's a huge demand for them right now. Their crossbred calves are really overvalued right now. So you can get quite a bit for them at the sale barn. Some of your other products right now are a little bit undervalued. So there is a real temptation to take these calves to the sale barn and get a good price for them. But I would recommend getting into the retail market to start out slow, retain some of these calves, and see if we can't feed them out and get them up to the level where people want to buy them. Get your retail business started with these crossbred calves. I think you're going to find a huge market. They're not going to be hard to sell once you get them going. I specialize in getting retail businesses started on farms, either be a beef farm or a dairy farm. And I'm looking, I teach people how to start slow, how to get into the retail market on just a casual, slow basis, and then we build from there. We build and we build. And the crossbred calves are a great way because the inventory is really easy to get rid of. You're not trying to sell something that's hard to get rid of. So once you get the calves up to that point where they can go to slaughter, it's not going to be that hard to market them and get them. So if you can retain some of them calves, that's really going to be a good idea for you. Before you start getting into retail, though, there's just, you got to remember, retail's a whole different mind concept than what you're doing right now. You got to turn your brain well, 180 degrees. Everything is going to be customer focused. You're not selling at a sale barn or on a contract. You're selling to individual people. So everything has got to be thought differently when you get into retail. You've got to start. First of all, what I would do before you even started retail, don't start retail just on a whim. First of all, what I would do is I would sit down with your family, anybody that's involved in your operation. Sit down with them and have a meeting, map it out, at everybody's opinion on why you're going to retail. What are the good things about it? What are the bad things about it? Why are you going into retail? Why do you want to dip into it? What's your purpose for doing it? Every decision you make thereafter is going to be based on that purpose, that reason why you're going into retail. Every decision your employees make, your family makes, has to coincide with that purpose of why you're going into retail. Any purchases you make, any expenses you have at all has got to be considered in that operation. It's not going to be the same thought process as you have right now. So I would have probably 2 or 3 meetings before you even started it. Get it all out in the open on your first meeting. Come back in a week, have another meeting, get it all out in the open, and fine tune things, get more ideas out there. And the next week, come back with a third meeting and sit down with everybody and try to really fine tune it before you get started. Then decide what your goals are. You want to sell 1 cow a year? Do you want to sell 2 cows a year? Do you want to sell 3? What is your inventory? What are you willing to try your first time out? Because you're not going to just pick up and sell something tomorrow. It's going to take you a while to get, sometimes it takes 2.5 years to get to that finishing point. So what inventory do you have? What kind of cash flow do you need? How many calves a year do you have that you need to sell? Do you want to sell 90% of your calves at the sale barn and then keep the rest? So there's a lot of decisions that got to be made before you really get into that.
Oh, I just had a question come in that
Yeah.
you kind of just touched on. So talking about kind of splitting that your first go round, since we are having record prices at the sale barn, is it safer to kind of maybe split that, maybe hold 2 or 3 back just for your own personal retail and then send
I
the
would,
rest off just so you're covered?
yes, I would never start out with 10, 15. That's just too much. I would start out with 2 or 3 or up to 5. I would keep one for yourself to use as I see as part of my marketing. I like to grab people. I like to give them a free sample of stuff. I want you to try my beef. I want you to try my product before I ask you to buy. So I like to keep a little bit back that I eat. I like to give stuff away, just little bits of stuff, like maybe 5 pounds of hamburger, maybe some beef sticks, maybe some, a couple ribeyes. I want my customers to try it. Once they try it, I've got them. Okay, they're not going to say no when I ask them to buy again, like right away, or the next time they buy beef. I want them to experience and I want them to show them how I raise this beef. And I'll get into this even more. But just for cash flow, I would take right now where they're so overvalued. I mean, they're so overvalued right now. I would take as many to the sale barn as you can, retain 1 to 5, and start slow. Because you're going to make mistakes. I mean, God forbid, I made so many mistakes when I first started out. I could write a book on just mistakes. So you're going to make it. You're going to find things you never thought of before. You're going to run into issues that you never thought of before. And I like to start small. I like to start with my relatives or my friends and have them buy, because that's the easiest thing to start with is your relatives or your friends, and have them buy my beef. So yeah, to answer your question, I would definitely start out on the smaller scale, because it's going to expand real quick. I mean, really quick. It's not going to be a long-term thing. It's once people know that you have this product and people are tasting it, and you're developing. See, again, it's your mindset. Your focus now is on quality. Your focus is on 100% quality. Your brain now is going to your pastures. How can I produce the greatest pastures? How can I have the cleanest water? How can I have the cleanest environment? What calves do I want to keep back that are that show the most potential to raise for beef. You can't just pick out any calf and expect it to be like some great prodigy. You got to pick out the calves that you think are going to do well. Um, and once you get those set aside and you're focused so much on your forage, because remember, sometimes people don't really think about the quality of forage, but now everything you put in that calf is going to determine the taste. So you're trying to produce a high quality, high tasting product, and people taste it and they like it. Because buying beef is all about the taste. It's all about the eating experience. They really don't care what kind of calf or what kind of cow it is. I mean, really, if it comes down to it, does it taste good in my mouth or not? I don't care if it's an Angus or if it's a Wagyu or a crossbred Holstein. I really don't care. It's about when I taste it, is it the best steak I've ever had? And if it is, you're not going to have any problem with your repeat sales. So you want to be really careful once you get into this retail. It's now about perception. It's now about taste. So get really good at pasture management. Pasture management is going to be your new focus. It's how can I develop the best soil, the best forage, and that's going to take it's going to take some training on moving product all the time, moving cows daily. Uh, your rotational grazing is going to be extremely important. It's going to be There's not a lot of feedlot calves are not going to probably be what you want in this type and retail environment because you're going to be doing. I teach a lot of people about farm visits, and some people don't like farm visits, but that's what sells a lot, and they want to know how their steak and how their beef is raised. And if you can show them instead of telling them, you're going to sell a lot of beef, and you're going to have more people knocking at your door. So you're going to start increasing your calves that you hold back as time goes on. But the first year or so is going to be just kind of an experiment. And you really need somebody to kind of hold your hand a little bit. That's where I come in. I mean, you really need somebody to come out and show you what to do and what not to do, because you don't want to go through that 5-year, 10-year learning curve where you're doing everything wrong and you're wondering why your calves aren't growing or why your steaks are tough. And it's very frustrating. So that's kind of what I do. I show that and help people through that whole process. So
Absolutely. I definitely think especially now in these times post-COVID too, to even bring that up, people are so interested in where their food is coming from. And if you have that platform to, one, just make your connections and put your ranch, your beef, how you're raising out there, that's free marketing. And that brings people to your product, they'll ask questions, and it's also just a chance to educate.
absolutely. Education and showing is the most
Mhm.
popular thing, the most important thing. I used to invite people out and I'd take them around the ATV and I'd go up to the cows. I'd show them the pastures and show them the grass and how they bite it and why we rotate them, the manure, and the less flies on them. And they were like, just because most of these people have never been on a farm, they have no idea how you raise cattle. Okay. There's two worlds out there. There's a rancher's world and there's everybody else's world. Okay. You have access to their world. They don't have access to yours. Okay. They don't get to come out to your place and see things. You have fences, guard dogs, you have gates, beware, don't come on my property signs. They can't come onto your farm and see how you raise, but you can go to their world and see everything. So if you can get them out to your world, invite them to you, especially city people, never, the only thing they get their information from is the internet. They see how things are done by what's on Facebook or the internet. So they don't really have a clue what you do. So if you get them out there and you get them up next to a real cow, first of all, they fall in love. And second of all, they absolutely blows their mind how cows are raised and what they are and how everything works. And they realize that things aren't what the internet says. And they show you we show people how well how the cows take care of the land and how it grows and how the plants are healthy. And there's more animals out there and more everything. The air is cleaner. I mean, you can breathe out there. There's butterflies, there's bees. That's so powerful to get them to sell, to buy your beef. It's unreal. I had people do that, and I'd have their kids come back and want to work for us. And they would like, well, can I come out and work for you guys over the summertime? And it's like, well, you can be an intern, sure, no problem at all. And their family would never think about buying anywhere else. Once you show them your operation, nobody else matters because they have no idea how their beef is raised in the grocery store, but they know how this beef is raised. And all of a sudden they're like, why would I buy anywhere else? I mean, this is the greatest thing in the world. I mean, this is so cool. And the beef is good. You give them a free sample, you have a little cookout with them while they're there, give them a couple hamburgers. I mean, it's very powerful. So getting into the retail market is a whole different deal. It's so much fun, and it's so there's a lot going on. You have to like people. You have to want to put on a show. Um, it's not just about having a piece of beef and getting on the internet and trying to, sending out 5,000 emails and trying to get somebody to buy your beef. That's not what it's about. You're going to have a tremendous amount of repeat business if you develop a quality product and you can show people your operation. So,
And I guess dairy folks, speaking of pasture management and grazing, a lot of our dairy folks here, they are grazing dairies. So
right.
they already have the opportunity to really not exploit that, but really use that land to its advantage. And already they're providing for the cows that they have. Why not just throw a beef dairy cross on there? And then you're absolutely breaking into that market.
Oh, easily. Your dairy farmers are some of the people that take care of the best, take care of their animals the best. They have to. That's
Yes.
their livelihood. They have to take care of each animal like it's, one of their kids. They have to. So if you can show that at the same time that you're showing your beef operation, I mean, how many people have actually toured a dairy from the city? Nobody. I mean,
not a lot.
nobody. And who hasn't? I mean, I'm from the farm. If I go out to a dairy, I got a best friend who owns a dairy farm. He uses robots. When I go out there, I'm like, I just can't. I just sit there and look around. My brain can't comprehend what's going on. And it's so cool. It's a very cool um, thing to witness for a lot of people. Then you segue out into the beef operation. It's just a natural progression. So people get more into buying milk because they know where actually milk comes from now. They know how it's produced. You're not stealing milk from babies. I mean, it's all that negative propaganda that people hear. It's not true. So now they can see it themselves. And then they go
Hey,
out.
Jim,
Yeah.
I got a question. I got on late. Sorry, I just got done mowing hay. But we're making silage hay. I know when you talked about the taste and they can see how good it tastes. Is there a suggestion what you like to raise your beef on? Just what type of grass do you feed? Would it be good to feed silage hay or a mixture of different grasses with legumes?
Well, and it's a whole different deal too. I would buy cows that gain well on grass. Okay, there's different cows that gain well on corn. There's different cows that gain well on grass. We bought cows that gain well on grass. So like your more of your medium frame cattle. Um, in the wintertime, we would supplement them. I would supplement them with alfalfa pellets. I didn't have access to silage. I didn't have access to that stuff. And plus up in Iowa, we raised alfalfa and we raised, birch foot trefoil. We had rye, and I had probably 8 different types of grasses in my pasture. When the warm season grasses died, the cool seasons came up. So they always had something to eat going into the winter. And then we would supplement them with alfalfa hay and a little bit of grass hay. So are you down in Missouri?
Yeah, we're down in Missouri. So like my ground probably ain't the best for alfalfa, but it sounds like maybe when you get ready to finish them, then you need to turn them over to some type of a grass that would put some flavor into the meat.
Yeah, the silage is fine. It depends how you want to raise them. I mean, build value in any way that you raise them. That's how it's really a personal preference. If you enjoy the taste of silage, finishing a cow with silage, that's great. I mean, just promote that when you sell the cow. Your grasses are going to be different than they are in Iowa, and your soil's different, so it's going to be a little bit different tasting. But I like to give my cows as many different opportunities. So I have 7 or 8 different, and I wouldn't go any higher than that's pretty high. But we have so many different temperature changes here. But I would give them a variety of grasses to eat throughout the year, because you're going to have warm ones die, and then the cool ones need to come up. We have a lot of, and you guys have a lot of hills too. You got north facing hills and south facing hills. So I'd put a different mixture of grass on the different sides of the hill, because the sun doesn't hit certain parts of the hill all the time. So there's different grasses that can go on them. Your rye, they're all good. They're all good growing grasses. But when you come down to finishing, you need a little more higher legume, a little higher protein. Not too much; it gives it a bad flavor, but enough to make them really fatten out well. Get them marbling in them. It's kind of a trial by error a little bit. I mean, if you try a couple and you want to change the mixture up a little bit so they get a little bit more fat in them, a little more marbling, then do it.
I guess to add into your point in his question, the ones that are gaining on grass, what I would call kind of like an easy keeper. No, that's a good horse term, but also a good cow term. So
Right.
if they're already gaining, they're maintaining on grass. Once you start adding in that supplement, you're going to see exponential growth and gain. And then if you are silage finishing, say that to whoever
Right.
is buying it. Be like, I silage finish. This is why. This is what I like about it. Use every single thing that you do to your advantage.
Right. Explain to them what silage is, though, because no one knows what it is. So they may think it's a whole different thing than what silage actually is. And there's not a better smell in the world than silage, right? So if that's going into your beef, explain to them, this is going into the beef. It's going to make the beef taste really good. A little sweetness to it. It's got good marbling. Explain to them what it is. It's just cut up corn stalks and corn, just explain how and why you use silage. And if that's what you love, great. And
Right.
your guys
And,
will
and it's still a grass finish.
it's still a grass finish.
Mhm.
If you're not using the corn on it, not using the fruit of it, it is. Um, but even if it's not, you don't have to be grass fed. If you want corn fed, there's a lot of people that want corn fed. And that's great. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just how you as a farmer a producer want to produce your cattle. I don't advocate either or. If you're going to do either or, just give them the benefits of it, and it'll show in your voice and your conviction. If you really think finishing on silage is the best way to go, it's going to show in your voice, and people are not going to dispute it. And you're going to have great cows, and they're going to be a great eating experience. So other than that, and this we kind of went really ahead of where I wanted to be at on this, but selling retail is going to be there's going to be people. I advocate people coming to the farm all the time. I mean, I think if you can get them on the farm, they're going to be customers for life. And I don't think there's anything more powerful. I think it's a lot more powerful than a farm, than going to a farmer's market, any of that type of stuff. It's that does all right. I mean, it's not the greatest way to sell stuff. It's a lot of labor and a lot of time for what you get out of it. But anybody that comes out to your farm is going to be wowed, and they're going to have. And if you can give them just a time of day, give them an hour of your day, you're going to sell them, and you're going to sell them beef. Give them a little sample and stuff. It's pretty powerful. But if you can keep back those cross calves, those crossbred, I can't even say it. You know what I mean? And start dabbling in it a little bit. I think you're really gonna have a good income source that maybe you don't have right now. Just takes a little time to get going and stuff. So next thing I would do is before you start retail is I would do a real farm evaluation. This is going to sound bad to some of you people, but I would hire somebody, pay them $100 or $200, and I would have them evaluate your farm, which means I would have them Google it, try to pretend that they don't know where your farm's at or where your phone number is or anything about you. Have them get on the computer, try to find your farm, how to get a hold of you, have them call you, who answers the phone, how do they answer the phone, what do they say, how easy are you to get a hold of, how easy it is to answer questions. I want them to drive by and see what your farm looks like from the outside. Is it easy to get in? Is it intimidating? Is there a guard dog out there going to bite your leg off if you come off? Is it dirty? Is it full of junk? Is it inviting? Food equals cleanliness. Cleanliness equals food. People put those two together. You don't have to have everything put away, but it's got to be, everything's manicured and clean. You want a good, the first impression's everything. Unfortunately, it is when it comes to buying food. So pay somebody to go through all the paces. Get on the website. Have them get on the website. Have them try to find the website if you have one. If you don't have one, then don't worry about it. Your Facebook. What do they think about your Facebook, about your website? Is it easy to order stuff? Is your Facebook easy? Is it got full of weird stuff that they think is insulting? Go through A to Z, everything about your farm, and have them give you a real evaluation. If you're going to invite people, you're going to get in the retail market, your farm is your business. It's no different if you owned a hardware store and they came out and you had awnings that were down on the ground and you had junk everywhere and you had your shelves were in disarray and there's junk everywhere and your people at the cash register were smoking or no, you're not going to buy anything from them. If they don't know anything, if your people at the hardware store don't know anything about hardware, you're probably not going to buy anything. If they're not friendly, if they come in the door and they look at you like, what are you doing here? It's like, you've gone into a clothing store or a restaurant at 10 minutes before they close and they give you that, oh, you don't feel like buying anything. So I want an evaluation before you even get started. I want them to tell you what they think of your farm and your operation. That way, and you can make your corrections before you actually get going. It's going to be and do that probably once a year. I mean, sometimes I would do it once every 6 months, but once a year is usually adequate. And that'll give you a real indication of what people actually think about your place. And you can make your changes. So the next thing is you've got to have really good records. And I'm really skipping through stuff here, but we don't have a lot of time. Your whole existence for the future, if you want to get into retail, is, and I could spend 8 hours just on this one subject, is follow up. And that's retaining your customers. You cannot let any of your customers go. You cannot lose one customer. And I'll tell you why later, but your customer base is the key to everything. When you sell somebody, you got to write their name down. And I write them down on a recipe card box. And then I have whiteboards all over my place when I was doing the retail selling, and I'd have everybody's name, their phone number, email, and I'd have January through December, and I would put an X in the next month that I need to contact them. I'm a real visual person. I can't use computers because I can't even find half the stuff. When I put in a file, I won't be able to find it anyway. So I put everything up on in front of me, and I know when to recontact people. The retail market is about repeat sales. People eat food. They don't buy it once, and then they don't eat again. If they buy a quarter from you, how long does that last for one or two people? Probably 2 months at the most, 3 months maybe. So you got to get a hold of these people before they're out of beef and ask them if they want to buy another quarter. If they buy half, it may take 4 to 5 months to 6 months, depending upon how many people in their family. If you need to write it down, when do I need to contact these people? You've also got, everybody has kids, everybody has family members, brothers, sisters, cousins. They may be needing beef. So you need to be contacting these people often to ask them if they know anybody that wants beef. So a real good record system to follow up with your customers is the key to everything. I don't want to lose any customers. So you got to have a real strong foundation, like a really strong bricks that are not ever going to leave, not ever going to fall apart on you. Your business has to be built on really strong bricks. And those bricks are a customer base. So the more of those you get, the stronger your business is. Even if you have downturns, those people are still going to be there to buy from you. Then we just build, slowly build. And then once we get enough, then we start bringing in other products that we can sell them. And I'll get into that later at another seminar. But the key to everything is this follow up. I bought beef from a lot of people this past couple of years, and not one person's ever called me afterwards to thank me or to ask me if I wanted to buy more beef. I'm like, well, you know, I buy $300 or $400 worth of beef every couple months. No one's ever called me. No one's ever asked me if I want to buy any more. I mean, I've already trusted them once to buy from them. I think I can trust them again to buy my next purchase. So they just lost out on that purchase. My kids have wanted to buy beef. They're trying to figure out where to go to buy beef. So they've lost out on those purchases. My kids' father and mother-in-law wanted to know where to buy beef. They've lost out on those purchases. And it just goes right on down the ladder. So if you really want to build a big retail business, you've got to follow up, do a great follow-up system, and really got to learn your customers and keep them.
Here's a question that came in. Would you
Yeah.
say it's easier once you start retaining those customers to build that relationship and have, I guess, more of an easy purchasing process with them?
Oh, absolutely. It's a lot better. But remember, they don't take them for granted. They're not going to just automatically buy from you again. You have to stay in contact with them, and you got to get to know them. I would invite people. I'd invite customers I've sold 100, not 100, but probably 3 or 4 times. I'd still invite them out for a barbecue once in a while. Let them know that I still like them, respect them. They're part of my family. It is easier for them to say yes, but don't take them for granted. It's like relatives. Don't just expect they're going to buy from you because they're a relative. They want to be wined and dined and proven that you have the best product also. They're still spending money. But to answer your question, it does make it easier to resell people, your customers, if you stay in contact with them. And then as we get down the road, selling them other products, which we'll get into, to really start making some money, is key. It's really important to keep in contact with those people. And don't ever forget them. I can't imagine how many people, I mean, think of all the things that you've bought lately. Anything, cars, you bought a truck, you bought a house, you bought a, whatever product it is, doesn't really matter. Clothes. Has anybody ever called you afterwards? Maybe they did the first week. Like, hey, how'd your purchase go? Blah, 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 blah. Has anybody ever called you 3 months down the road or 6 months down the road or a year and kept in contact with you and did it maybe a year and a half, 2 years? I've never had anybody, but I have all kinds of people that I know that would buy cars or they would buy homes or that would, I mean, we all have our relatives that want to buy a home. And if nobody ever stays in contact with you, you're losing so many residual sales. You don't have any, and it's so much easier to sell a referral that somebody wants to buy than it is to find new customers every day. So if you got a customer that you sold numerous times, call them up and say, hey, I'm having a barbecue out here. I'm inviting a few friends. I'd like you and your wife to come out, or you and your husband, or just yourself to come out. Bring a friend with you. Bring 1 or 2 people with you, and we'll show them the farm. You do that a couple times, you got all these new people coming out that you didn't even have to talk to. Your customers are telling them all about you, how good the beef is, how cool the operation is. They're already pre-sold before you even get to your farm. Then you're having a barbecue and you're showing these people, you're introducing yourself to them, how nice you are, and you're giving them your product, you're showing the farm. It's the easiest sale in the world. Now you've just increased your potential customer base a huge amount. You don't even have to leave your house. So that's why it's so important to keep retaining your customers. You can do so much with them. It's mind-boggling how fast your business can grow and the amount of money that I can show you how to make by just doing these little things. And it all starts off with retaining 2 or 3 or 4 of your calves. It starts right there. That's where it all starts, and you can really reap the benefits.
Absolutely. So since we have a small group, I'm going to get you guys to participate just a little bit more. So if everybody will either send in a chat or go ahead and unmute and just let us know, what is your biggest concern with getting started? What's stopping you? What's something we can answer, whether it be beef on dairy or just breaking into that personal selling market? So you can go ahead and send a chat or just go ahead and start talking.
I think probably one of my concerns would be is storage for your beef that you're going to sell, or bison in my case. You
I
know,
that's a valid concern, and I wouldn't get into storage. The most I would do with you is I would process one for yourself, and I would sell nothing but halves and wholes. You're only going to sell one or two or five at a time. You're not selling 50 or 60 at a time. So you're really just spending your time trying to find people that will buy a quarter or half or a whole. You can butcher one that you guys can eat for yourself, and if somebody wants to try some, you can get out of that freezer for that. But I wouldn't when you first start, I wouldn't cut up two or three cows for nothing or buffalo. I would have them pre-sold before they went in. So you really want to start 6 months before your beef is ready to go to start pre-selling them. Get a deposit and let them keep them updated how soon things are going to be ready. Don't get into that. We had 5, 6, 7 big monster freezers full of beef. And you talk about losing sleep at night. Trying to get rid of this. It gets old. You got electrical problems, and your freezers go down, and you got all this beef you got to somehow get rid of before it thaws out. I wouldn't do it. That's why we start small. Take one or two of your buffalo, get them sold, sell quarters or halves or wholes. That's the only way you're going to sell them. I wouldn't even allow people to buy individual pieces. Not when you first start out.
I guess to add into that point, it is in Missouri illegal to directly sell those retail cuts once it's been taken home from the packer as a retail product. So I think what Jim is explaining is you sell that beef as it stands on the ground as either half, whole, whatever it's going to be. They pick it up from the actual processor and you sell it that way. That way you don't have to mess with any of the transportation of that meat. You don't have to get into any legalities with it. They pick it up, they go, they store it however they want to.
Right.
But I don't think it's illegal. I mean, you have it USDA certified.
Yes, but if you're not,
you can take it to a
then it
packer
is
that's
kind of
got
getting
those.
into that tricky point.
I think you're just causing yourself a lot of problems by starting out selling individual cuts, because people are always going to take the most popular cuts. A lot of times you're left with a lot of stuff that you don't want. I would spend all my energy at first just selling. The only way I'm selling these is going to be quarters, halves, and wholes. That's the only way it's going to go. If you want to give somebody a sample, take it out of your inventory that you and your wife.
So I guess you'd have to sell it. You'd have to sell it on the hoof.
Sell it on the hoof, exactly.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that would be the easiest for you. A lot less stress, and then things are so much cleaner, so much easier, more profitable. I mean, it's just nice to not have all that inventory sitting around.
Anybody else? What are
And
some of your
You
concerns?
have the greatest, and Jim, you have the greatest opportunity. You have a buffalo farm. I mean, what people out there would not want to go out and see a buffalo farm?
Mhm.
I mean, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, the scenery is amazing. You can put a lot of value on that, and it would just be a gold mine. People just love being around bison or buffalo, and you could easily. It's just It's just a great thing to have.
Yeah, we get calls all the time. People would want to come out and just take pictures, or they want to know when I'm going to put them in the front pasture so they can drive by the road and look at them.
Hell, I would sell pictures for $5 a picture. Say, you want pictures? Yeah, it's $5 a picture. I mean, I've done that with calves. We'd charge people to come out and bottle feed, and then we'd also say, do you want a picture with the kid and the calf? I'd charge $5 to $10. I know it's kind of screwy, but people will pay it, and they don't mind paying it because it's something unique. So, well, I'm not just going to bring people out to Buffalo. I got to take my time to do it. I'm going to be paid for it. You can make quite a bit of money by doing tours and charging people for stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Get in that profit mindset and think of all the different opportunities of making money on your bison farm. There's just endless. It's a gold mine.
And that could be a whole other topic, is just agritourism in general. And that's a huge space that people can break into, could break into, need to. And again, just back to that information sharing and
Right.
education piece. That's sometimes those are our biggest reliable sources of it.
Yeah, back on topic, your dairy farmers are really got a good thing going. I mean, it's such a very unique place for people to come to visit and see. And they have a very high quality calf that they can raise and make very high quality meat. So it's a great opportunity to get started. And once they start seeing the money and what you can generate, retaining a couple calves isn't so painful. I mean, you can see how much money we're making, and once you get rolling, it's like, oh, this really does make sense, So, what else?
So I've read some stuff about the difference between harvesting like a steer and a heifer. There was some people talking about they just had an abundance of heifers, couldn't keep them all, so they took some of those. So is there really a difference? Do you think in meat, marling, things like that, there was kind of a 50-50 split on what people were saying about that?
Is there a difference in taste? Did you say
Yeah.
between a steer and a heifer?
There was.
If I didn't tell you what we had butchered up, you would never know. It doesn't say like, hey, the beef doesn't say heifer on it when you eat it.
Mhm.
There's a difference to us producers that take them. There's a difference in fleshing. There's a difference in fat content. There's a difference in amount of meat. I always liked butchering heifers. We really got a good product out of it, but I also got really good product out of the steer. So it's really a personal choice. If you don't have a good heifer and you don't think if you think you need to call one and you want to be a heifer, to a customer, they wouldn't know the difference in one way or the other. It's just a cow. So if you really put them side by side, you got a ribeye from a heifer and a ribeye from a steer, you might notice a difference, maybe. But
And back to the dairy, of course, we milked for probably 25 years when I was a kid, but it was a big thing that people would bring their kids out just to bottle feed a calf.
oh God, yeah. Yep. Greatest experience. Good point. I mean, greatest experience of a child to do that. My kids used to bring them out on a Friday night. We'd be in bed and I hear the car roll up the driveway and out of the lane and there was 3 cars outstep with all these girls and my 2 boys, and they would come out in the middle of the night just to bottle feed calves. It was like the greatest experience of their lives. Was every Friday night they would rush to our place to bottle feed calves. And it screwed my calves up quite a bit because they got them out of their eating sequence. But yeah, there's nothing better than bottle feeding a calf if you've never done one. So you could even charge if you had 20 bottle calves and you want to charge $5 a piece. It's great money. It sounds kind of greedy, but hey, it's your calf and you want the experience, pay for it. But I like to look at everything as a profit potential. Anything I can make money on, ethically, of course, and legally, of course, then I'll.
Does anybody else have any questions, comments, anything they want to share?
Also, probably one last thing before you start a retail business, just kind of look around and see what your customer potential is in your area. How close are you to a town? How many people are doing in your area? I'm not really that concerned how many people do in the area, but what's your customer base look like? What's your potential customer base look like? Some people say, well, I only have a small town of 300 people next to me, so there's not enough. But that's actually probably a better scenario because they're all buying beef somewhere. And there's not a grocery store in that town. So they're going out of town to buy their beef. you can do a free delivery program. You can get everybody coming out to buy your beef. It's the best beef in the world, right? So, and why would I want to drive 20 miles to the nearest town to buy sub-quality beef when the farmer down the road is selling it? And you can make more money on a small town than you can probably on a bigger town because there's nowhere else to go. Plus, if you really think about it, there's no entertainment in these towns. Where do people go for entertainment? They're starving for entertainment, right? You have kids, there's nowhere to go on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday. So if you have some kind of event going on at your farm, that's a great family thing to bring your kids out to your farm to see the buffalo or to see the dairy or to see the calves, to see your operation. And it's a great way to sell more product. So take an inventory of what you've got around you before you decide what to do and get a little game plan going. So the more you show up in that town of 300, the more you're constantly in that town talking to people and your truck is stickered up with your dairy or your name on it. You're going to sell a lot of beef that way. We had a town of 92, I think, below me when I farmed and it was really easy to sell them beef. They had nowhere else to go. They had to drive 26 or 28 miles into a city of 150,000 to buy anything, and we just, we had it right there, so it wasn't that hard to sell a lot of it. Anybody else got a question? Chloe, anything else?
Not that I can think off the top of my head.
But the other thing is, the last thing I want to say, which is really important, before you start a retail business, make sure whoever's involved in the business is 100% in.
Mm-hmm.
If they don't agree with you, get it settled before you start. And also get your hierarchy down. This is going to sound bad too, but who's in charge? You got a husband and a wife, kids. Who makes the final decision? The final decision without somebody second guessing you. Because you're going to have to make a lot of decisions and some people aren't going to agree with you. And someone has to make the final decision. And whatever you do, there's called conflict resolution. Do not let it affect your marriage. Don't let it affect your family life. You're going to have a lot of conflict in the way you want to raise what you're doing, or maybe people don't want people coming to your farm, or they don't want you traveling around trying to sell, or maybe some in your family only wants to sell through emails and through the internet. They don't want to do face to face because they're not used to talking to people, and you guys get in this big long discussion or argument. Get all that handled before you even start. It will save you a lot of sleepless nights, and your business will be a lot more successful when everybody's on the same page and you're all under agreement. This is what we want to do. When it comes to decision making and marketing, when you have your meetings, everybody's on the same page and everybody's in agreement. And don't leave people out. Don't just have it with you and just you. Don't leave your wife out or your husband out or your kids out or your employees. If you're going to make a decision or you got a plan, get everybody together and lay it out so everybody knows what you're doing and why you're doing it. So they understand why your decisions you're making and why you're making those decisions. It sure saves a lot of yelling and conflict between you and your family and your employees. And that's a whole nother seminar just for that.
I guess going back to the beef on dairy crosses, if you are one of those people in the dairy industry, take advantage of the technology that you guys have. Dairy is one of the leaders in AI, and beef is adopting that, which is amazing. But you guys are skilled, you already have those reps in place. Try it. Just get, like Jim said, maybe 1, 2, 3 of those calves, get 1, 2, 3 straws of beef semen, and make sure you're selecting proper genetics of beef to directly complement that dairy cow. But take advantage of that. Just try it out, see how it goes, do a little experiments, and say you just take 2 cows out of your 50 milking rotation and you have 2 beef cows. That's not a huge loss, drop in the bucket. And that cow is still going to be lactating, so you're not losing out on that production money either.
Richard, and kind of just decide what breed, what you want to breed them with.
Mhm.
A large, I would go with a medium frame cow. They're easier on, depends how you're going to raise it, but
Absolutely.
they eat a lot less and they gain more, and you can make more money. You get more cows on one pasture than just two medium frames compared to one. So you can double your money by going a little bit more medium.
Mhm.
And the steaks aren't so big. You don't really want these big monster steaks. They look good in an advertisement, but realistically, people don't want the big plate size ribeyes or T-bones. Get more manageable ones, and you'll have a lot more meat and you'll have a lot more success. And when you start on it and people start buying it.
Absolutely. I know in the study that I talked about earlier, a lot of those were Holstein Angus cross because you're sizing down that big Holstein frame to where it's easier to be processed. Plus, you're adding in that Angus marbling. And Holstein has already been liked for its beef quality just as a straight dairy. So it's kind of the best of both worlds there.
It's going to depend upon your if you're doing strictly grass, you maybe want to go something more like a red Angus or a red Devon or something that really does well on grass.
Mhm.
So kind of just really think it through before you just start picking anything. Depends how you're going to raise it. If you're doing silage and corn, yeah, the Angus is a great way to go because they're really used to growing on that stuff. If you're doing strictly grass, that's a whole different deal. So put a little thought into it before you just start raising any type of calf.
Yeah, I know when we had the dairy farm, we actually experimented and got some beef bulls, and then we actually started our beef herd from dairy cross.
Mhm.
Kept the heifer. Worked out
Yeah.
well.
That's a great way to do it.
Mhm.
Very popular.
Well, I've gone ahead and just thrown up our information on here, our email. I have my phone number. Jim, if you would like, I can put your phone number in the chat to share.
Sure.
So if you have those kind of questions on what might work best in my certain scenario, contact us. Shoot us an email. Send us pictures, photos, and we will do our best to help you. And that's what we're here for.
Yeah, love to help. Any questions you got coming up, I'd love to help. Like I said, retail is a whole different animal. It can be a lot of fun. It can be very frustrating if you don't prepare. You got to prepare right, and then it gets to be pretty fun. And Jimmy, you got one of those personalities where you could sell anything.
I don't know about that, but thanks.
Yeah, you could.
All right.
Okay. Well, does anybody have any last minute questions before we start wrapping things up? Oh, and just to go ahead and do a little plug for Jim, he does have a book on marketing beef where he goes into detail about almost everything as well as some of those additional on-farm income sources. It is available on Amazon, so you can get it super quick to your house. So if you haven't grabbed his book yet, go ahead and order it. There's a lot of good information, and maybe that will help you kind of formulate those questions, think through some of those processes to make this work for your operation. All right, one last slide for you guys. I just want to say thank you to everybody that jumped on with us this evening. Thank you, Jim, for being here, sharing your knowledge with everyone. If you guys don't mind to scan that little QR code, or I will also send a follow-up email. This is an evaluation that helps me better plan my programming as a dairy specialist to just help you guys out, see what you want to know more about, see areas that you're struggling, maybe confused on. This will help me better reach you guys. And then you can also add in there different topics that you want to know about, and maybe we can bring Jim back to do some more talking with us. So if
Great.
you want to go ahead and scan that, and then I will also send it in an email as well. But we will hang out for just a few more minutes, but you guys are free to go, free to ask some more questions. But thank you so much.